Lesson number 24. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Watch what you say. Do what's right. And everything be okay. Is that good enough? You're dismissed. Okay, no. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 32 through 34. If after the manner of men I have fought with beasts at Ephesus, what advantageth it me if the dead rise not? Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Awake to righteousness and sin not. For some have not the knowledge of God. I speak this to your shame. All right. So 1 Corinthians deals in 15 deals extensively with all kind of subjects and the resurrection. And all of a sudden it just kind of drops us in verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Now, I take this in a couple different directions tonight. One will be the direction of the straightforward lifestyles. The second will be a spiritual direction that I'd like for you to keep in the back of your mind, and that way I don't have to toil through that as we talk about these other things. But if you will take an understanding that spiritual corruption, false doctrine, false teaching, all of these things will corrupt the same way the other topics that we're going to talk about corrupts. So as we're talking tonight, keep that in mind. But at first glance, it seems that this is misplaced in relation to the resurrection. But upon closer examination, we see that it is a vital link in our preparation for the first resurrection. Though all will be resurrected, not all will come forth to the resurrection of life. Some will come forth to the resurrection of damnation, according to John 5 and 29. So let us carefully consider the correlation of our subject being prepared for the first resurrection. So let's look at the definition of the word communication. In this context, it does not refer to speech, but it means a group or companions, company, crowd, or gang. So your communication or your area that you're in, the communication of fellowship, the communion that you're involved in with family, friends, Looney Tunes, whatever it might be. That is the communication that he's referring to, and that's word may be a little bit taken and converted improperly, but it still works. Whenever your relationships are evil communications bring about corrupt good manners, right? The word manners in this context does not refer to etiquette, but it means custom, morals, or characters. So bad fellowship or fellowship with evil people, doing, situations bring about and they corrupt good morals. Bad fellowship corrupts good morals. Be not deceived is what Paul said. It's going to happen. So preceding the statement, be not deceived, the passage leaps out at us, telling us we need to be on guard or alert for a danger lurking nearby. Let's look at Luke 21 and 8. And he said, take heed that thou be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near, go ye not therefore unto them. Well, what does that have to do with evil communication breaking good manners? Well, here's what happens. Whenever in the spiritual realm, you allow yourself to commune or have fellowship, you begin to open up your mind to evil communication. You begin to receive it, accept it, take part in it. And it's not just in lifestyle, but it is also in truth. This is a very dangerous situation. When we begin to commune with those of false doctrine, we begin to corrupt our morals of the truth. For instance, if you, and I believe in letting your light shine and reaching out as far as you can into this world, but I also know that there comes a point in time that if you're not careful and you have been dilly-dallying and sitting around with and blowing bubble gum and discussing false doctrine. Let's just say, for instance, every Thursday afternoon, the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses or whoever comes hanging out at your house. After a while, it is going to begin to break down and corrupt your good morals of truth. You must be careful. Okay? So that's why it's in there like it is. Looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 9. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, or adulterers, or the effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. When you hang out with this group of people that is either spiritually like this or in the carnal mind like this, it opens up your mind to receiving a breakdown of your morals. Has anyone ever heard me explain to you why homosexuality is so accepted in your world today? Do you know why homosexuality is accepted like it is? It is accepted because the homosexuals allowed you to laugh at them for so long. And they were the butt of the jokes, and they was all kind of and they didn't mind so much. But what happened is, as you chuckled with them and laughed with them, you accepted them. I was hoping, just off the top of my head, that Sister Alyssa was going to be here tonight because I was going to use her for an example. Or Sister Savannah, or one of the young girls. You know, if I were to go up to any of these young girls in here, and I wouldn't do it other than just for an example, and you know what I'm doing, but if I were to walk up and sit down next to one of them, kind of put my arm on around them, about 30 seconds later, they would be scooting to the far side of their chair. Am I right? As would most anybody else in their right mind. But the longer I sit and tell jokes and laugh with them, the more relaxed they're going to be. Guess what? I haven't gone anywhere. They're the same, but they have become comfortable with it, almost accepting of it, so that the next time I come and sit next to them and put my arm around them, they're more receptive to it. And we laugh and we joke around a little bit more, and so it gets to the point where if I don't put my arm around them, they think there's something wrong. This is what happens. This is what evil communications, this is how it can break down your good common sense. Ephesians 5 and 6, let no man deceive you with vain words. For because of these things cometh wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. When you allow yourself to be deceived and you open up your mind to evil communications or evil fellowship, you break down your good morals. All right, let's look at some things that we must protect. There are a few things in this life that you have that are persistently yours, and the outcome of them is completely based upon how you act. Your good name. Do you realize that your mother cannot ruin your good name, but you can help hers by being obedient to the Word of God? Honor your father and mother. But your good name can be destroyed. Let's look at what it says in Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 1. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. Man, do you realize that if you ruin your name, you have wasted greater things than riches and silver and gold? How do you waste your good name? By evil fellowship. By hanging out with the things that will not make you better, but make you worse. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. If you have created your name and you have protected your name and you have built up your name, the day that you die will be a greater rejoicing both for you and for those around you because of the future that it holds. When a child is born, it has an unlimited future. Only the limitations that it makes for itself. When you die, the living that you lived and the protection of your good name determines your eternal future. So if you have done all that is well to protect your name on the rolls of heaven, and you can't do that without protecting it on the life that you live, then your eternity is a joyous occasion. All right, let's look at something else. Your reputation. I think it was Joan Jett. Don't care about my reputation. I'm going to tell you what, you need to care about your reputation. because your reputation precedes you. It might be wrong and it might not be that great that it does. But to our young people, you have a life ahead of you. Do not destroy your reputation. If you have failed in the past, you're getting back up again and working harder creates a reputation that though you fall, you get up again. Though you make mistakes, you fix it and go on. That's the reputation that they will hear. Protecting that reputation cannot be done through evil fellowship. You must pay attention to who you listen to, who you talk to, where you hang out, the songs that you listen to, the TV shows that you watch. All of that is communication with your mind. The more you laugh at the Couirse, guess what? The more accepting you're going to be of them. I'm going to tell you what. You know, I've always heard the story, and I don't know if anybody here's ever heard this, but they say that it's possible that you may have homosexual tendencies if you have hair on your knuckles. And it's guaranteed if you check. Now that may seem funny, but what you just did, and I know somebody just checked their knuckles, but what you just did is you went into communion with that statement enough to step out and look. And that doesn't, you know, it may seem kind of trivial and funny, but it goes the same way. You don't start off being a mainline heroin addict lest you have entered into the thought process that other heroin addicts are in. When you fellowship with liars, cheaters, stealers, you know, people that can't say 20 words without cussing, guess what? If you hang out with them, sooner or later, you're going to be like them. I posted on I sent them a message the other day, one of the young boys in this church. They had a whole string of cuss words on their Facebook. And I private messaged them. I said, you know what? You're a smart guy. Let me tell you something. There will come a time that the people that talk like that are going to frustrate you because you're a whole lot smarter than they are. Don't move down to their level. Find some people that talk up on your level. He got it, but then it went away about 3 days later. But when you step into that relationship with people of evil structure, you will corrupt your good manners. Your good morals will be corrupted. Okay. 5 basic areas. Oh, wait, by the way. You also need to protect your church. Let me say this real quick. And this is not just pastor. This includes one another. Brother Adam, if you come up to me and start bad-mouthing Brother Emmett, I need to look at you and say, stop, right there. That's my brother. We're not going to enter into communication. We're not going to enter into communion with the thought process that Brother Emmett has hairy knuckles. I'm sorry, that was wrong. Yeah, but look, you did it backwards, so it's actually going back to you, ain't it? Anyway, but no, that's just, you know, that's where we got to be careful of our church. Talk bad about my church. You're talking bad about my pastor, my brothers and sisters in the church. Stop right there. No more conversation. I will not enter into communion or fellowship with evil attitudes. The world. We have got to be careful that we are the light to the world. Guess what? If my evil communion brings about a tarnish of my morals, guess what I have done? I have broken down my light to the world. So we've got to be very careful. Let's look at 5 basic areas of influence. What we see, the things that you see. When you look at things, I do not, and I know this is, you know, a lot of people might be upset at me about this. I don't preach against TV. I preach against things you watch on TV. The things that you see on television, the things that you read in the magazine, the things that you look at in the newspaper, the things that your eyes are drawn to in a catalog. Hello? You know, unfortunately today, our level of standard has moved down so far that the things that we once would have said, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. We have moved our way around. It's like I mentioned the other night. 30-something% of people's income is taxed right now, and we are not thinking that why is this ominous government taking that much of our money? We're trying to figure out why we can't get more out of somebody else. Why can't we suck somebody else a little bit drier so that, but no. The thought should be, why is our government so big to take 30-something% of our money? The things that you see, you need to raise your level of standard. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to enter into fellowship with that because that's evil. And that corrupts my good morals. That sets my feet on a path that I don't want to go down on. All right? What we hear, the things that you listen to move you. I can tell by some people in the church, and those of you that hide it pretty well, I can tell by you too. But I can tell when you turn your radio on and you're listening to good gospel music that is uplifting and encouraging, or when you're listening to that, well, since my baby left me, and all that other stuff. All that whoop-bop, loop-bop, all that weird music. That's right. You know what? You're doing what Randy Travis sang about. I'm digging up bones. I'm digging up bones. Exhuming things that's better left alone. When you're not careful with what you hear, you will dig up where you came from. Music ties us to our past. So that when you begin to listen to that music, you begin to enter into the mindset of from whence you came. And I know that all of a sudden, the bruises of your broken heart are brought forward onto your shoulder and into your face and every other area of your life. And your good morals are brought down till your anger begins to be lifted up because of the broken heart, because you've been listening to Waylon Jennings. You know, save the last dance for me. Come on, just give me a, living in sin at the Holiday Inn, whatever it might be. All right? Trust me, it's out there. I could even tell you when it was published, on what album and the record company and the artist. But yeah, it's out there. What we think. Evil communication corrupts good morals. Okay, you're sitting alone. There's no radio. There's no television. And your thought process goes to how you can get something over on somebody. Guess what? It's going to corrupt your morals. I am one. I have to be very careful. I don't know why. It's just kind of in there. But I scheme about how I can get over on everybody. Not like, how to say it, like how to make a warranty work out in my favor, or how to come out with a better deal at Walmart than what they're offering. Or I'm bad about that. I come up with ways that I could run red lights and fight it in court and win. And I have to rebuke myself because I find that is just something my brain goes to. I can't help it. I don't understand it. It does that. But that has to be moved out of my mind. I have to refocus my thought. How do I do it? I begin to praise the Lord. I begin to think of the goodness of Jesus. I begin to have a song of praise in my heart. Hey, Brother Dunn, did you ever do all those things? Some of them. But most of them retain themselves back here in the back of my mind, and that's where it's as far as they go because of good discipline on my morals. However, evil communication destroys good morals. Evil thoughts destroy good actions. All right, what we read. How many of y'all know that you don't need to read some things? How many of y'all have read a book in the last 90 days? You have? Check that out. It's getting unusual that people would read stuff. We used to publish things. What is a movie? Anybody got a clue what a movie is? Huh? I can't hear somebody. They're mumbling back there.
That's Jessica.
What'd you say? A book. All it is a book in picture form. Think about it. You don't have 15 hours to read War and Peace. You can watch it in 2 hours. It's telling a story. That's all. Louis L'Amour, all he did was tell story after story after story. I know I'm wrong in saying this, but I love these preachers that damn and condemn movies, and they got a library full of Louis L'Amour and all this other stuff, or whatever they're, I don't know, whatever it might be. I think it's hilarious because it's the same thing. It's just in visual form. So what you read, what you watch. Let's cover both topics of that. What you read and watch enters your mind. There is something dangerous to reading. A lot of people don't understand it. Do you understand why newspapers are still around? If you read it in the newspaper, it's real. It doesn't matter if it's a lie. There's something about reading. It is an authoritative stance. That's why ebook readers are still out there, and that's why they're growing. That's why you can get the New York Times on your telephone, because the stories in the newspaper are more real than the stories on the television. I don't read the newspaper, but anytime I can remember reading U.S. News and World Report all those years, and it just was so vivid and so real, because the mind, when it reads something, it clicks, it takes effect. Take, for instance, Stephen King. If you were to sit down today with his book called The Stand, and I was a betting man, I could bet you that by the end of like the 3rd chapter, you would have a cold. Period. You would catch the disease and have the symptoms of that he is so powerful in his writing of words that you get involved in it in your mind. I watched so many people do that back years ago, back in the early 90s, when that came out on book form, was re-released in paperback, and I watched people pick it up and read it. I even gave it to my sister just to watch, and it would just... What chapter are you on? Man, her eyes were runny and red and nose running, and because of the power of the written word. You can't read trash novels and not trash your brain. You can't read false doctrine without trashing your spiritual conscience. You can't read these things and put them into your mind. I'm telling you, where do people get their ideas of theology? It's like my dad said, the books that we used at Apostolic Bible College, ABC? Yeah, ABI. No, PBI. Pentecostal Bible Institute. Peanut Butter Institute, same thing. Okay, at PBI, where my dad went, he said the books that they used on eschatology was all written by Trinitarians. So wouldn't it make sense that they were totally confused the return of Christ? To get you to look at the wrong Christ when He showed up? Absolutely. That's why when I started teaching Bible studies on the end times, my dad's like, wait a minute. That's not what I was taught, but that's what the Bible says. And it was, so, you know, you go picking up all these books written by all these guys that can't stand on the Bible and look at Jesus and tell the truth. Guess what? You begin to seed your mind. Evil fellowship corrupts good morals. All right. Both in the flesh as well as in the spirit. Okay, in the company we keep. Be careful. I do not preach that you don't need to have friends. You need to have friends in the world, but they ought not be your first friends. Your main friends need to be the church friends. Because what will happen is the closer you are to them, the closer you are to the things of them. I love your family. You need to love your family. You don't need to hang up the phone on your family, not talk to your family, unless they run down your church every time you talk to them and all that stuff. But at the same time, your church family, because that's who you're going to spend eternity with, is number one. And you would like to move your family into your church family. The more your communications are moral, the more you are a signpost to the lost. That's why you must be careful of your fellowship. It's one thing to have a whole bunch of friends, and I know we're coming into ball season. There's going to be kids playing ball. Okay, that's great. You meet Susie Jane and Billy Bob at the park every Friday, Saturday, whatever day it is that you go to the park, and that's great. But you got to recognize that our friendship is for our kids playing ball. And if you would like to expand our friendship, it's going to be focused on communications or good things, no evil communication. The closer you get with them, the easier it is to be attracted to the things they are attracted to, because you have entered into communication or tight-knit fellowship with them, and your mind is thinking on them, and you see how much fun they had when they went out last Saturday night. No, they didn't get drunk, you know, they just had a couple beers, and well, we don't have to drink, we go hang out with them. You give it a little while, and next thing you know, it's going to be a Sunday night. Well, let's get out of church real quick and get on down there to go meet them at Applebee's and hang out. No, Pastor, I'm not drinking down there. It's just a good time. The more fellowship you have, with evil things, the more it's going to break your morals down. Raise your morals up. Raise up your code of ethics. Raise up your destination. Raise up who you want to hang out with. Raise up who you want to listen to, read, see, hear, all of that good stuff. Look at some people that it broke down. Our associates break down our good manners. Anybody ever heard a lot? Anybody heard the outcome a lot? What does it say in 2 Peter 2:8? For that righteous man dwelling among them in seeing and hearing vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. Be careful. Look at Proverbs 13:20. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. That right there is the whole lesson. That's the whole lesson right there. Hang out with smart people, you'll be smart. Hang out with idiots, you're going to be destroyed and you'll become an idiot with them. That's the whole lesson. But let's look at a couple others. Samson. Anybody know that Samson had a problem with hanging out with the wrong people? Anytime that you can get comfortable in the lap of a compromiser, you're going to be lost. Amnon, guess what? He had a bad friend. It was a negative influence in his life, and it messed him up. It came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister, whose name was Tamar. Amnon was the son of David, loved her. Now look at this. Amnon could have asked David, it's a testimony in the Bible that Amnon could have asked David for her to be his wife. But look at what he did. He asked the wrong person. Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, and she was a virgin. Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend. Boy, I'll tell you what. That's like saying alcohol was involved. You know it? It's your friends. It's your communion. It's who you are hanging out with. Whose name was Jonadab, the son of somebody else, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very subtle man. What did he do? He talked him into raping his sister. Friends that are not on the right road will get you in trouble. Look at Solomon. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him? He was the wisest man in the world, but he married a sinful woman. He hung out with sinful kings. He tried to show off his stupidity. God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. Brother Dunn, I know what I'm doing. Oh God, I hate hearing that. I hate hearing that. Anybody ever hear that? Your kids? Mom, I know what I'm doing. You don't. Because when you hang out with corrupt things, you break down your good manners. Good manners receives good teaching. Solomon, we all know the story. God got very angry at Solomon over that. Anybody know somebody else that was like that? Had a bad friend that kind of led them the wrong way? When Judah started hanging out with his thoughts that were wrong, his bitterness, guess what he did? Sold Jesus. We've got to be careful about that stuff. Separation. This is something that is up to you. How you separate yourself from the world. You need to set that level of separation. Because you hang out with people that will break down your walk with God, you're in trouble. It's going to happen. Your goal needs to be the highest goal. Your plan needs to be the highest plan. You need to set the greater level for your life. Let's look at some life's vital areas. Your parents. Parents, this is to you. You need to watch who you hang with because you will reproduce that in your kids. Okay, Johnny and Susie, it's your good friends, are on a high level. They're great people. Junior, on the other hand, is full of something, rhubarb pie in his brain, and he's a horrible influence on your kid. But Johnny and Susie are great. Pay attention. Because while you're having good communion with Johnny and Susie, Junior is having evil communion with your Johnny or with your whatever. And it's breaking down the good, all of the hours that you teach your kid. Go hang them, you go shove them in the house of a gangster and wonder why they hate and they're bitter and they're angry. I'm telling you, you've got to watch as parents. who you fellowship with, who your communion's with, because if you don't, you're going to break down not only your good morals, but the future morals of your children. You need to watch who you hang out with. Watch who your kids hang out with. When's the last time you checked on who your kids' friends were and their home life? Old story that I remember from years ago. This mother moved into a community, and she had a deal with her son that before you can go to anyone's house, you have to let them borrow our parrot. And the parrot would go home with them, and then when they would conveniently need someone to keep the parrot for a couple days, and then they would come back and get their parrot back. And she would let him hang out with the kids at that house. What do you think she was doing? Wanting to find out what kind of fellowship that boy, girl was going to have in that house. The parrot would come back acting like, speaking like, regurgitating the things it had heard in that home. You know what? We've got to be careful because it's going to rub off on us. We'll sound like, talk like, act like what we're around. Children of Israel, go into Canaan land. Get rid of all the junk. Run them out. Get rid of them so you don't become like them. Let's make an affinity with them. They're okay people. They're people just like we are. We're all flesh and blood, right? Well, guess what happened? They didn't convert them. They went the way the Canaanites went because they began to fellowship with them, and they begin to get cozy with them, and they begin to follow after their way. Dating. Oh boy. No young people in here tonight. Why not? Okay, we just make sure we give this DVD to all the parents of young people. And those yours that aren't grown up, just save it. Don't date out of the church. This concept is difficult for all of us. Hello? No matter how innocent the relationship may be, dating is a prelude to marriage. Well, it's innocent. Okay, I'll take you on a friend of mine's website and I'll introduce you to her. I grew up with her going to our school, and it was so innocent. Mom and them would let them, they had a little money, and they'd let them rent a limo and go to eat, and, her and the little boy, and they were just kids. It was innocent. Then they had to move her to Atlanta to be with some family members so she could have her baby. Innocent. Guess what? Dating in any form is a prelude to marriage. Brother Adam, when you get your 6 little girls and 7 little boys and you have your football team, listen to me. Don't let the first conversation of dating start. If a Johnny in this world, Sister Mary, when it likes your granddaughter, encourage your granddaughter to invite him to church and see if he wants to live for God without the hugging and the smooching and the friendship, and just come to church. See, are you interested in God? You get interested in God, God might open up a door between me and you, but right now it's closed. We don't even talk like that. Why? Flirting to convert doesn't work. I laugh about it, joke about it, but it don't work. Be careful. Well, whom people date may well determine their spiritual well-being as well as future happiness. Christians should date only those who have proven themselves to be faithful Christians. They should date only those that are spiritual, not those that profess it. That's what a key right there. In this very church. Don't nobody trying to figure it out because you don't know who I'm talking about. In this church, somebody got to talk to somebody out there in the world. Somebody out there in the world got saved. Got the Holy Ghost. And neither one of them come to church. Who won who? But when pastor was wise and told that person, hey, leave them alone. We'll get them in that church. We'll get them in church. Leave them alone. No, neither one of them come to church anymore. That's sad. That's not good. And it's not just this person, but history. Back how many eons of time is filled with all that junk. Okay? Parents, but that's just one in this church. Parents exercising a guiding hand here, but young people too must be discriminating, selective regarding whom they date. Listen, I pick on our young people, but I pick on them like this for a reason. When I hear them talk about how good looking Who is some hot mama on the world scene today? I don't even know. Anyway, good. Nobody else here does either. Okay. When I hear them talk about, let me go back before my time, Brother Emmett, you'll like this. When they start talking about how great Raquel Welch is, I'm going to stop that train of thinking right now. Because you start thinking it. So when you see old Billy Bob walking down through the halls of school, and you know he ain't right, ain't living for God, and you start drooling over him, guess what? Or her, guess what? You're corrupting your good morals by what you think. And you're opening the door, and Billy Bob's going to come up and say, hey you, yo, what up? You want to be my woman for a while? Peace out. No, I don't, because I've never thought about you like that. Because you're a pig and a slob. What do you mean? He's a good guy. No, he's a pig and a slob because he's going to hell. Right? God. Help me, God. Marriage. In marriage, we make lifelong vows, commitment one to another person, or to moral purity and to God. The person we marry is an immeasurable effect on our spiritual manners. Our companion can make or break us physically, spiritually, and financially by his or her conduct. A couple should commit themselves to enhancing each other in every aspect of life. Poor marriage partners destroyed Herod, Solomon, Ahab, and Haman. Be it far from us as Christians to do less than our best for our companion. Let me explain. You're married. Your communion with them and your conversation needs to be toward the good. Evil communion breaks down good morals. I would be careful how I talk here. When you start talking about stuff that don't fit a godly home, you open the door to it. Every now and then you need to be the one to say, we're not watching this in the house. And the other person needs to recognize that you feel that way. You have weak times. Sister V. Hill, sometimes you're weak, sometimes Brother V. Hill's weak. Sister Mary, sometimes you're weak, sometimes Brother Robert's weak. We all do that. Hello? If you're not careful, you'll be the one to open the door and break them down. Last time they broke you down. So the thing to do is to watch what you start into conversation. The Bible says, Brother Adam, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. You know what? If we would make up in our mind that we're not going to enter into arguments that are uncontrollable, we would bring peace in our home. Do you realize that without peace in our home, the Spirit is not there? The power of God and the presence of God is not in your home when it's an upheaval. What brings about upheaval? You see, I'll tell on myself, I wasn't raised in a home of arguing and fighting. I saw my parents fight one time. I can't tell you the day and the hour, but I can tell you just about when it was. I know when it was, and I can remember one fight that they had. And my gosh, if y'all was there, y'all would think, that was lame. But you know what? For all of the bad in my home, I had a good home. For all of the things that didn't work well for me because of my sinful spirit and all that kind of stuff that I was dealing with, because of my evil communication and all that kind of junk that I broke down my good morals that I had when I was a kid, guess what? I had a great home. When I got married, I married a girl that lived in a home that was crazy. Kind of crazy home that Dad shot the son because they couldn't stop arguing for hours and hours, and he went and grabbed a 9mm out of the truck, and that's the kind of family I married into. Guess what? I didn't know. I didn't have a clue what I was in store for. But by the time it was over with, I could toe-to-toe. Because I began to allow that. I allowed it, I allowed it, I allowed it. And next thing you know, I broke down my good attitude and my restraint and my power of control. This is what, it may seem like just arguing in your home, but let me tell you something. You need to back the boat up and break it down. Get control in your home. Get control of yourself. Your home life results in children, offsprings, your marriage, and not just, and we're not talking about just arguing. We're talking about morals. Your morals are broken down. How many of y'all, when you married your wife or your husband, would call them the names that you called them in the last argument? All right? But evil communications have broke down your good morals over the time. So work on that. Build it up. Your social life, who you hang with, who you run with, and all that kind of stuff is not good for you. I want to read a couple of scriptures for you as we're wrapping up here. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, also 7 and 1. And God hath raised up the Lord, and will also raise us up by His own power. Know ye not that your bodies are a member of Christ? Shall I then take the member of Christ and make them a member of an harlot? God forbid. What? Know ye not that he which is joined to a harlot is one body? For two, saith he, shall be one flesh. But he that is joined unto the Lord is one spirit. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body. But he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body. What? Know ye not that your body is a temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? For you are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Now, concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. What does all that mean, Brother Dunn? That means your social life, spiritual social life, has got to be around godly people. Because if you don't, you're going to corrupt your good works. You're going to make your good manners go down. If your spirit is tied together, and we hear all that about the flesh. Let's move into the spiritual world. We understand that. Guess what? You go sleeping around with a hooker, you know something's wrong, right? Am anybody confused about that? Let's talk about in the spirit. There are spiritual fornication. There is conversations that open you up to greater spiritual fornication. You must be careful in your social life to raise it up out of false doctrine. Stay away from it. The closer you get to it, you corrupt it. All right. One more point. Church life. How many of y'all realize that there are different levels in the church? There's the right hand and there's the left hand. I was thinking to myself the other day, I want to call a meeting and have everybody in the church line up down the center aisle and say, okay, those of you that want me to be your pastor, move to one side of the church, and those of you that would just like to come and hear me preach and spit and scream and holler and throw out frisbees, go to the other side of the church. So I will know who is looking for a pastor in their life or who is just wanting to ease their conscience. You see, you need to know that as well. Sister Vigil, you need to know whether or not Sister Johnson wants to make it to heaven. Because you don't need to hang out with somebody that's a spiritual pig. And I don't mean anything wrong by that. I'm just, not calling you a spiritual pig, Sister Johnson. You just happen to be in the line of sight. But, here's a clue. People that come to Bible study generally want to learn more about God. If you want to learn more about God, who should be your buddy? Those in Bible study. If you want to skate and go to the edges of living for God and always on the edge of the white line, about to fall in the ditch, there's some there too. You pick and you choose. Even in the church, there are some people that you don't need to communicate with or commune with, fellowship with. Because I tell you what, I saw it just the other day. Man, all of a sudden, somebody started being big buddy to somebody else. Next thing I know, the spirit that person had to fight is now on the other one. And they're both heading to the ditch. The blind leadeth the blind. Find somebody with eyesight. Find somebody with vision. All right. In closing, from adolescent through adulthood, each person constantly faces a decision of communications and manners. Only you, within the inner sanctum of your heart, can make the daily choice of what and who you will be. Not to delude you, but there's a price to pay. Selectivity is hard. Let me tell you something. Michael Jordan, awesome basketball player. Anybody disagree with that? There was some stuff that boy had to decide not to do to become the great basketball player that he was. We think it's just, all the wild parties and all that stuff. No. That boy, when everybody else was in a wild party, was on a basketball goal, shooting baskets. You want to make it to heaven, and you want to make it to heaven without with all the crowns of righteousness being laid up for you and making it there with glory, I'm going to tell you what you got to do. You got to make a decision that that's where I'm going, and I'm going to put my communion with people that are going there with me. Because that's who I'm going to be eternity with. That's the class and the level of people I want to be with. Find somebody greater than you. That's why I'm very, very picky about the preachers that I visit with. I don't want to visit with a bunch of hogs, a bunch of slobs. I'm sorry, if your conversation starts off with golf and ends with fishing, and we've never gotten to Jesus, we just had our last conversation. That's why a lot of people don't like me. That's why I don't have when I evangelized, I didn't have 2 years worth of stuff booked up because I didn't show up and go fishing and hunting with everybody. I had one preacher take me fishing in all the years that I traveled. Two. I caught a barracuda and I caught a salmon. That was it. All those years, I never went fishing. Gave away 100-something fishing poles one year. I didn't go fishing. I just bought my first fishing pole after all these years. Nothing wrong with fishing. And I hope one day to go fishing, Brother O'Neill. But you know what Brother O'Neill talks about half the time I talk to him? Having a Bible study with somebody. We're trying to do the best we can. And if he tells me about his fishing trips, man, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. I talked to Brother Carrington, and he tells me about the great revivals that are going on through the district, and he might splatter something there about getting on the motorcycle and going for a ride. Wonderful. But I know I know where I'm wanting to go, and I have a goal. I got my plan is if I got to listen to something, I want to listen to something good. I want to listen to something that's going to take me to my goal. All right, I'm sorry, I'm running my mouth again, ain't I? All right. Principles and ethics are high-priced. Character and reputation are hard-won wars. I challenge you to accept responsibility and get involved in your church's programs. By the way, I didn't write this. I'll read some of this stuff. Church's programs, services, and ministries. Be dependable. That's a great thing about the people in Bible study. I can say that too, and I don't think anybody's going to throw anything at me. Be true. Be faithful. Be loyal. And remember, be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. All right.